Well, it is day 2 of MLB postseason, and there's just one game of baseball left before we get into the ALDS and the NLDS, and the Houston Astros' reign over the American League might have come to an end streak yesterday at Minute Maid Park. We'll get into all of this and more at Dlls Rangers podcast. Round of the postseason. The Detroit Tigers sweep the Houston Astros, Kansas City Royals sweep the Baltimore Orioles, San Diego Padres sweep the Atlanta Braves. We will get into it. Great to have you join us. I'm Abby Jones with Jeff Wilson. We call him J-Dub around here. We've got Elijah, the Prophet, as the producer, and we sure miss John Radigan.
We do. You're going to take some time off coming up, and I'm going to take a little time off coming up. So, yeah, we're adjusting, and we're doing great. We're kicking tail.
We are.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you who else was kicking tail yesterday. Every other team except the Atlanta Braves and the New York Mets and the Milwaukee Brewers. So let's take a look at what happened yesterday. I don't think that MLB predicted that 3 teams would sweep.
It's pretty interesting. And I guess that the Mets kind of upset the apple cart a little bit, but the team that had won, since they'd gone to this little best of 3, the team that had won the first game had won the first 9 series. So the Tigers made it 9 straight. The Royals made it 10 straight, and then the Brewers rallied and won to kind of snap that. But well, I guess officially it's not snapped because the Mets could still win the series. So winning game 1, as you mentioned on Tuesday, is just enormous, and it's showing true. And the Rangers did it last year. So I'm surprised and not surprised. I thought that the Padres had the Braves were just facing a tough road without Chris Sale available, and then the Padres are good. There's that. And then I did like the Royals, and I was rooting for the Tigers, but I thought the Astros would win it. So I have no problem with any of the outcomes.
Right.
Yeah. I'm fine with that. But the Astros one, though, is the talker, if you will.
Yeah. Let's take a look at all of the celebrations that happened around Major League Baseball yesterday. We'll start off strong with the Detroit Tigers sweeping the Houston Astros at Minute Maid Park. We'll get into all the logistics of the end of the reign, if you will, in Houston. But the Tigers defeat the Astros 5-2, and then we head over to Baltimore, where Kansas City completed the sweep 2-1. Such a low-scoring outcome between that series. I was really not surprised, I guess, but it was a little unexpected that they just didn't have more offense between the two. And then the Mets and the Brewers did split. We'll get into that come from behind win, like we mentioned. And then the Atlanta Braves are sent home in San Diego, and the Padres take that series 5-4. So 3 sweeps, 1 game remaining today between the Mets and the Braves. But let's get into the Houston Astros, because is their dynasty coming to an end?
It's so they're, by exiting early, they won't make the ALCS for the first time in a long time. It was 7 straight ALCS appearances for them, which is phenomenal. Just all the extra baseball they played means they've put together good rosters. They've had good luck with health. They've supplemented the rosters via trade, whatever it is. They bang the trash can if you want to throw that in there too, and it's right to do so. But these aren't the trash can banging Astros. These guys are older now. I know Altuve just signed his extension in early in the year, but they have the Alex Bregman question. Are you gonna keep Alex Bregman? And if so, at what price? First time free agent. He's not gonna mess around. I don't think he's gonna go out and try to get maximum dollars as I think everybody in their right mind would. And then they have some guys, Justin Verlander. What are you gonna do with Justin Verlander? And
Right.
Framber Valdez, I believe, is still arbitration eligible, but do you want to extend him at some point? So does it come down to Bregman versus Valdez? There's just a lot going on, and then they sunk $95 million into their closer, and that kind of Hader was okay, but it just seems like they're in a spot where it could fall apart.
It could fall apart.
And adding insult to injury, they have the worst farm system in baseball. It's the lowest ranked farm system. They traded, they that happens when you're a contender. You trade away your good players, but they've stripped it down, and so they are in trouble. They don't have a lot of help incoming, and really, it's not unlike when Drayton McClain owned the team, and the Astros were making deals and signing free agents, and at the time when you sign free agents, you would lose draft picks if they were really good free agents, and so the Astros went years with not replenishing their farm system with high price or with high talent, high draft picks, and then they would trade them away at the deadline to try to add upgrades. And so ultimately, when the Astros were so bad before they started this reign, it was to rebuild. They had early draft picks, Carlos Correa and Bregman among them, and so that's how they rebuilt their team, and through some good scouting and signings like Jose Altuve. So it kind of feels like that's where they're at right now. They can keep this going, patchwork, spending money, not having a lot of internal options and depth, or they have to make some hard decisions and allocate money the right way and maybe make some trades to replenish the farm system. But, I mean, they're still good. Don't get me wrong. They're going to be good. They had a ton of pitching injuries this year. But it just feels like this feels like a crossroads moment.
Yeah, I agree. They're the third highest salary for that team as well. So there are a ton of decisions to consider there. You saw Alex Bregman tweet after the game, "Thank you, Houston."
Yeah.
Very short and sweet, to the point. But just to put this run into perspective, he mentioned that this ends the 7 straight appearances to the ALCS. That started back in 2017.
There you go.
And to add salt to the wound, the guy that made it stop was AJ Hinch. So the manager that started the streak is now the manager that's going to end it in the opposing dugout. And AJ Hinch was actually interviewed about that in last night's game, and he said, "Isn't baseball great? It's unbelievable."
Yeah, AJ is complicated in mind because he was complicit in the trash can thing, and he knew it was going on. He testified to that or admitted that, and that he didn't stop it. So I don't know that he got a raw deal from the Astros when he was fired, but he is a good baseball man. There's no doubt about it. He has a track record of success in a lot of different roles, and the Tigers took a chance on him. They really did, and before his first spring training, he addressed the team and said, "If you have any questions or anything you want to say to me, let's do it right now. Otherwise, and this is it. Let's get out of the way and move forward because that's behind me. That's not who I am or whatever." And he is a good baseball man. I mean, you look at this team, and look at how they've held it together and then rallied so well. How he's managed the pitching staff that has 2 starting pitchers, basically, a bunch of young guys with no experience, and here they are, the hottest team in baseball, and now they're going into the division series to play a team they're really familiar with.
They are. It's a Cinderella story for the Tigers because prior to Wednesday's game, there were only 2 teams who had won a postseason game despite a starting pitcher not having a single pitcher throw more than 2 innings. So they used 7 pitchers to complete the sweep. I mean, that's just hilarious, one. And astonishing,
Well,
unbelievable, and give credit where credit is due.
and it makes things hard on a lineup when you have a bullpen day and you're throwing your best guys. You know, these guys don't get tired, right? So they're coming in firing their best bullets, whereas a starting pitcher, may pace himself early on, or he may wear down. You may be able to take advantage of them, but you're getting the best stuff 7 times, or however many times,
That's so true.
and you're not getting a second look in most cases at the same starting pitcher. So every at bat's different, and so it can be hard. I mean, their way of attacking you, their game plan might stay the same, but the stuff might be different. And so it's hard on an offense. You believe it or not, you do see a lot of low scoring games in which a bullpen game, just because the arms are different, and if they're fresh, then they're going to be giving batters hell.
Right. And I want to touch on Hunter Brown yesterday because this was a really big game for Hunter Brown. He's a younger guy. He grew up in Detroit, Michigan. This is his hometown childhood team. And he actually went to Wayne State, which is a
right
D2 school, just a mile away from Comerica Park. So, he even idolized Justin Verlander, so much so that he mimicked his delivery. So this was, kind of Hunter Brown's entire life flashing before his eyes. And, he had a pretty decent outing, 5 2/3 innings pitched, 2 hits, 1 earned run.
Yeah, he was great.
Yeah. So
he was good. It wasn't his fault,
No doubt.
And just, we haven't mentioned that another former Rangers player is the guy who really
Andy Ibanez
stuck the knife in the last nail in the coffin. Andy Ibanez, definitely, he signed from Cuba. He was a Cuban defector, and so when all these Cuban guys were signing, there were some big ones like Puig, and everybody got super fired up about him. And he just kind of languished in the minors for a while. In 21, he finally got a chance. The Rangers were terrible and rebuilding, and so they gave him a chance. I want to say he was the opening day third baseman, but I'd have to check my records on that. But and it just didn't work out, or maybe he was 22 was the opening day third baseman. Whatever. He just isn't good enough. And Josh Young was coming. They went out and got Simeon and Seager, or planned to do that. They had Nate Lowe at first, so those are the positions that Andy plays. And he wasn't better than them. So, they needed roster spots. They moved on from him. Not a big deal. Signs on with the Tigers. And, it's always nice to see. He's a great guy. He is such a nice guy. Always smiling. Didn't turn down interviews. He didn't speak much English, but was there whenever you wanted him. And just a happy guy, happy with what he had in life. And for him to do this, it's great. I think it's fantastic to see a guy who Rangers fans know, and people in Frisco saw him for several seasons, and not several, but multiple seasons, which you don't do with a minor leaguer. So good for Andy, good for the Tigers, and one last thing, this early exit from the Astros, it really kind of puts a bow, if you will, on a bad season by the American League West. The reigning world champions, the Rangers, never got going. The Mariners were the Mariners, easy to predict.
Yeah.
The A's were better, but not good. The Angels were terrible, and the Astros were flawed. So it's not, I guess, when you put all those things together, it's not surprising.
Right. And I think you can, take that even a little bit further with Josh Hader. I mean, Rangers fans were livid that they did not sign this guy in the offseason. A $19 million 2024 salary. That's more than the Detroit Tigers' 26-man roster. And it just goes to show you that sometimes money doesn't, fix everything.
Well, there are a lot of ways to do it. And, I mean, look at what ended up. Hader for $19 million a year, or Kirby Yates for $4.5.
I'll take Kirby Yates all day long.
Who had the most value? Who had the better year?
Yeah,
so.
and also Josh's main reason was the TV deal.
Yeah, right.
So it's
right.
like, okay, do you even care about the X's and O's of the game? Even that MO to me just really did not make sense. But no, one other thing on Andy Ibanez that I thought was interesting. No one has more pinch hit plate appearances in 2024 than Andy Ibanez. He's had 48. Which is most in the American League. And also, he slashed .429 when pinch hitting in the 8th inning or later.
Oh,
so
okay.
he really loves a big moment.
Good for Andy.
Yeah. So we've got more coming up on the DLLS Rangers podcast. All right, it's time to talk about Game Time, which is our favorite one-stop shop for tickets. Because
Yes.
if you need a concert, an event, I think you can even go to like a museum or something.
Yeah.
Basically, if you want to do anything fun after the office hours, Game Time is going to be your place to do that. You can download the app. You can actually check out your seat before you even purchase the ticket so that you know that you're getting a good view. They have the lowest guaranteed prices. They also have a money back guarantee. So if the concert or event does get canceled, you're good to go.
Yeah.
So download the Game Time Today app. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets. You can download the app, spell out DLLS for $20 off on your first ticket purchase. And sometimes tickets are like $50, so that's like a $30 concert ticket.
Man.
I'm going to take that 10 times out of 10.
Yeah.
So go to Game Time Today and spell out DLLS for $20 off.
So you're going to take your savings from the Game Time app, and you're going to go to the Sleeper app, because you're going to make some daily picks here. I love the Sleeper app. I am making small picks daily. You know, I think the most I've done is $5. I am up $4.67 after 1 month. Thank you very much.
Coffee will be on Jeff.
I got beat last night. Something that we can get into when if we talk about the Orioles and the Royals. But anyway, it's Sleeper is known for fantasy. It's fantasy platform. Keeps you in the loop for news and scores and injuries and stuff. But the daily picks, it's easy stuff to do. You find a game. Will Corey Seager have more than 0.5 hits? If you think he will, put it in there. You got to have 2 teams. If you want to do a flex, you have to have 3 teams. That gives you a little margin for error. But if you think you have what it takes, download the Sleeper app and use the code DLLS Rangers to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. Check out Sleeper today.
Perfect. Now, the Rangers have a lot of decisions to make. It's going to start with free agency number 1, Nathan Eovaldi. We've discussed priority number 1, but let's get into this arbitration.
Yeah, arbitration. It's baseball is, they don't have a salary cap, but they do have a system that keeps younger players in check. And that's the arbitration process. For your first 3 years and under of service time, your pre-arb, you make the league minimum. You can negotiate little incentives and stuff, but the league minimum is not bad. It's a lot higher even now than it was 5 years ago. But and then you go into the arbitration process.
You still live comfortably.
Yeah, you're fine.
Very comfortably.
You go into the arbitration process. You have 3 years of that. Some guys have 4 if they're Super 2 players based on service time. Anyway, it's complicated. But the fact of the matter is that MLB Trade Rumors, a great website out there, does projections, arbitration projections. And this year there are 5 Rangers players who are going to arbitration, headed by Nathaniel Lowe and his projected number is $10.7 million.
Ooh,
Jonah Heim at $4.8 million, Dane Dunning $4.4 million, Josh Sborz $1.3 million. He was hurt most of the year, so that's he signed for just over $1 million last year. And then Leody Taveras at $4.3 million.
Ooh.
So you look at those 5 names,
okay,
and you're like, Nathaniel Lowe, probably he says he struggled. Jonah Heim says he struggled.
Yeah.
Dane Dunning struggled. Josh Sborz unhealthy. Leody Taveras struggled. All right, are those 5 guys cemented in the Rangers' plans? If these salary projections are correct, can you find a cheaper option?
Right.
And so that's just because they're arbitration eligible, you don't have to give them a contract. You don't have to tender them a contract. There's I think it's November 22nd this year. I just wrote it at ALLDS.com. It's called the non-tender deadline. And if you have a guy who's arbitration eligible on your 40-man roster and you don't want to give him a contract, you non-tender him, which makes him a free agent. He goes right into free agency. So the Rangers have to decide, is Leody Taveras part of our part of our future. Do we want him on our team in 2025?
His increase was interesting to learn. His and Nathaniel's were the highest ask.
Yeah.
You know, Jonah, I thought should make more. My dad made a good point that in baseball, you get paid for what you did or you get paid for what you will do.
Yeah.
You don't get paid for what you're doing currently.
Yeah.
So I think with Nathaniel, 10, did you say 10?
10.7. Now, I mean, he was projected for 8.5 last year, and he signed for 7.5.
Yeah, 7.5.
So, did the Rangers get $7.5 million out of Nathaniel Lowe this year? Well, he was a 2.7 WAR. He had a 2.7 WAR, so that's not bad. He got on base, he played decent defense. If WAR is worth $5 million, if a 1 WAR is worth $5 million, then yeah, they got their money's worth out of Nathaniel Lowe, and he's probably a bargain. At $10 million, if you still think that's a 1 WAR worth $5 million, that's still probably a good value for him. Can he get better? Sure. Could he do worse? Well, yeah. I mean, that's there's a risk in signing every player, but if you look at it in terms of value, which front offices do these days, and with the Rangers trying to maximize their dollars with the financial uncertainty, then Nathaniel Lowe at $10 million probably is a decent value. You're not gonna find. You may not be able to find another guy.
Yeah, for
who's
that price.
better for what you're going to pay Nathaniel Lowe. So I think Nathaniel Lowe will be back. You kind of got the same read Tuesday as I did when listening to
Tuesday, the press conference.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
Prior to that meeting, no, because I just think honestly the way that Nathaniel Lowe carried himself in the last month of the season made it seem like he was moving in a different direction mentally.
Well, he had a really good month.
He did.
I think he's aware of his situation. He's a smart guy. He understands the position and the offensive demands that usually come at first base. It's not a spot for guys that hit 8 home runs a year. I mean, I know he hit 16, and then you kind of look back on, okay, how did he do once he got going? Because he was hurt and missed a lot of April. And then let's say he needed a 3-week stretch for his quote unquote spring training to get adjusted. How did he do from mid-May on, let's say? So, you can look at that and I'm sure the Rangers have all kinds of formulas to apply. And I think that they might be more comfortable with how he performed, considering the injury and the late start. Factor all that in. There might be more in the tank than the 16 homers and the 263 average. I think it was
265.
There you go. So anyway, that's an interesting one. Jonah Heim's going to be back. I don't think there's any question about that.
You mentioned he does need some help.
He does
needs
need
a very
some help.
solid backup catcher.
Yeah, I think so.
Do you have anybody in mind?
Well, I mean, I love Sam Huff, but I don't know that the Rangers do anymore. And so that's an interesting story that's going to be hanging over the team going into spring training. Dunning, the Rangers can't really be shedding any starting pitchers right now because they have an inning shortfall, but maybe they can negotiate for less with him. He was injured a couple times this season. So
and Dane Dunning, I love Dane Dunning.
Sure.
I think he's so valuable to the Rangers because he was pitcher of the year in 2023 for the Rangers, and then he was able to come. He was able to be a starter. He was able to come out of the pen. Like, he is very versatile, and I think that is a very rare pitcher to come across who truly is fine wherever he is placed.
Yeah,
people say that, but there's a difference in meaning it and saying it.
Yeah, and as we've talked about, the Rangers going to have some guys who aren't going to be 150 inning starting pitchers. You're going to need a guy who can work multiple innings, and Dane can definitely do that. Now, can you find somebody for less than $4 million? Maybe, but I don't know. And then Natalie just left a comment.
I was about to say, I loved Natalie's question, if we could get that back up.
Leote is in a tough spot because there's Evan Carter, there's that guy named Wyatt Langford. But if you look at a winning team, like the Rangers obviously are planning to win and go to the World Series. what do like good winning teams have? They have a guy who can play great defense and run the bases late, and that's Leody Taveras. At minimum, Leody Taveras can go out there and get you a big out, throw somebody out from the outfield, and if he has to steal a base, if you need a stolen base or need a guy to score from first on a double, Leody can do that. Leody's better than Travis Jankowski. I think we can.
We can say that with confidence.
He has more power, and the speed and the defense are comparable, but Leody has the better arm. Travis made $1.7 million this year, so it depends on what you want to how you want to pay it. And then with Evan Carter, there's still some questions about Evan Carter's health. So
I think that is such an underrated topic.
And
I feel
not
like
just his health, but his development.
They've swept it under the rug.
He didn't have a year of development.
Yeah.
And he had things that needed to work. He needed to hit left-handed pitchers. Leody doesn't hit left-handed pitchers. So, do you put I just don't know that they can shed outfielders either. Now, Dustin Harris comes up, left-handed hitter. They have so many left-handed hitting outfilders. They really need a right-handed hitting
apparently how
outfielder.
they only make them these days.
You got Wyatt and a Dlls, but you really need a right-handed hitter off the bench. So, does a bench spot, is Leody taking up a bench spot? If they believe that much in Evan Carter, and I think they do ultimately for next season, 26, and we're talking 25, I think Leody still is on the team. Spores will be back, hopefully healthy. So, but those are the arbitration guys. I do think they all come back, but you can make a case for them to not come back.
If any were like the most logical to not, who would it be?
I would say Dunning.
Okay.
Although, Chris Young loves the starting pitching, he just really fell off this year. So how about Dunning and Taveras 1A and 1B? But I think you could also try to get something for him. And if you agree to tender him a contract and you guys find middle ground, you can still trade him, and maybe you reach a deal for less that it's attractive to another team. I don't know. There's just so many permeations in baseball.
What do you think they need to see from Evan Carter with this consideration with Leody? Because I am on the side of we're almost giving Evan Carter too much credit, I think. Wyatt Langford has doubled his workload.
Yeah.
And, for me, it's the biggest thing is about progression. We saw that he has trouble with the lefties. That to me that's not an air. You can't miss that kind of depth and ability, to be in the major leagues to me. It can be situational sometimes,
right.
but that really does. When it's to the effect of Evan Carter, I think that's a hole in the lineup.
Well, he basically had, entering this season, as many postseason at-bats as he did regular season at-bats, which is crazy. But it was a minute number. So the league really hadn't adjusted to him. And I think that you started to see the Diamondbacks adjust to him in the World Series a little bit. Now, we don't know when the back started hurting this year. It seems like they keep talking about it earlier and earlier, like it was all spring and everything. So, nevertheless, he did not get any development. So if you want Evan Carter to be a full-time player, which is fine, if you want that to happen, you're gonna have to. There's gonna be some growing pains,
right?
Kind of like Wyatt this year. But he is talented. He has great strike zone judgment.
No doubt about that.
He's their best hitter against the fastball, and he's a really good defensive player, and he's fast. And if he's on the field, then you probably do try to give him at bats. But do you want him in center? Probably not. If the back's an issue, do you want him to take that beating, that pounding? Do you want Wyatt in center field every day as a guy who's still growing when you have a better defender? Do you make a Dlls a DH who's a Gold Glove winning outfielder when he's healthy? So there's just some complications there, but the Rangers see Leody Taveras, who is 6'3", 6'2", 6'3", lean, well built, runs hard, fast, throws hard, has power. They just haven't seen it all come together. So he's an enigma, kind of, and it's unfortunate. But at some point, you have to move on from these guys. The Rangers moved on from Nomar Mazara, who just was kind of stuck and didn't look back. So we'll see. But that's Leote and Dane are the two. I think that if two guys aren't going to get tendered contracts, it'd be those two.
I'm telling you, before that meeting Tuesday, I would have said Nathaniel Lowe.
Yeah.
No doubt.
No, I just think when you look at the value and the WAR and all that stuff, it makes some sense. Now, they can't upgrade.
For sure.
There's no reason to say they can't upgrade the lineup, and they might pursue a who knows. But
is he a sub 2?
Nathaniel Lowe's a super 2. So he has
Super
another
2?
year of arbitration after this. So anyway, it's just
So
one of
let's
those
chatter.
baseball things to talk about. It's a little bit inside baseball, and it can make your head hurt a little bit, but
I love it.
It's something that comes up.
It's nitty, it's gritty, it's needed.
Yeah.
We will talk about it all off season long. Coming up on the DLLS podcast, we are going to get into the only game in baseball today. But first, guys.
Oh, we got props today.
We got our Shady Rays glasses.
Yours are great.
I went with like the baseball player, 12-year-old.
Those are more Terminator style. Those are middle 80s.
Middle 80s?
Late 80s.
Okay,
yeah.
I was.
But I can see the baseball thing too.
To me, it's giving baseball. So these are quality shades built to last.
Who is it? Shady Rays?
Shady
Rays. I didn't know if we said that. We're so excited about these things.
Thank you, Shady Rays. I love these. I'm very excited I just feel like they match my vibe.
The good thing about Shady Rays, not to take away your ad read from you,
is
that they do prescriptions, and I need prescription glasses. These are not prescription glasses, so I can barely even see myself. It's very blurry, like I'm in the witness protection program on TV right now. But they are high quality shades, and now you can resume and finish off the ad read.
Well, I've got 5 seconds. So go to Shady Rays and get 35% off on your polarized sunglasses. Ben says shades are fire. I agree.
Yep. All right. So if you want to be cool with your Shady Rays, you also need to be cool and become a diehard member at DLLS, which you can do at alldls.com/join-diehard. For $80 a month, or not a month, good Lord, for $80 a year, you get access to all of our content, not just Rangers, but Cowboys, Stars, Mavs. When we start covering colleges, there will be stories behind the paywall there. And it's good stuff. It's veteran writers. Clarence Hill, who I've known for more than half my life, is covering the Cowboys
on
for
our
us.
show.
All right? Yeah. So you also get access to special events. We're talking about a trip to spring training, stadium takeovers, 20% off merch, and you get a free shirt. So join up today, alldls.com/join-diehard.
There you go. All right, let's get into the National League because it is the New York Mets, Milwaukee Brewers. Series was tied last night. The Brewers took that game 5-3. Statistics show that home teams are 8-4 and winner take all games over the last 5 seasons, and that's a 2-1 record in the wild card round. I will say that both of these teams are one of the best come from behind win teams. I think that the Mets are third in Major League Baseball with, I think, 44 come from behind wins. And then the Brewers just behind them. So these teams are definitely capable of doing so. If you watched the game last night, you know the 20-year-old literally did it all. Jackson Churro for the Milwaukee Brewers.
Yeah, what a stud.
He was, at one point, he was 100% of the Brewers offense. He hit 2 home runs. He was actually the youngest player in postseason history to hit a leadoff home run. Then he hit he hit another home run to tie it.
Yeah.
So he joined Babe Ruth as the only player in MLB history to hit 2 game-tying home runs in the same postseason.
That's pretty crazy. Same postseason game, right?
Yeah,
that's
game.
nuts in a game. And you look at the Brewers, and they ran away with the Central. They lost their manager to the Cubs. Craig Counsell went to the Cubs, and the Brewers ended up stomping the Cubs. This is a good team. They have guys who are. The problem with the Brewers and small market teams is they don't generally have the high ceiling offensive guys. So Willie Adames, the shortstop, who's a cleanup hitter. He wouldn't be batting cleanup for a lot of playoff teams.
Mm-hmm.
Rhys Hoskins, the Phillies gave up on Rhys Hoskins, and so he's found a home with Milwaukee. William Contreras, the catcher, a pretty good trade with the Braves to get him, and then Churio, who's a homegrown guy who has a chance to be a stud. He really does. Now, if they're going to be able to keep him in 7 years before he hits free agency, that's another question. So, how do the Brewers win? They win with their bullpen. You saw that. Corbin Burns, they had to trade him this year because this is when his value was the highest. They weren't going to be able to re-sign him in this offseason, so they traded him to the Orioles, got some young talent back. That's how this team operates. But they also operate with, smart signings, like Frankie Montas is a smart signing. He started yesterday's game. And then they build these bullpens and these kick-ass bullpens by out-scouting other teams and finding the value and really, it's hard to leverage like a platoon situation offensively in the postseason, but it's not hard to do with your bullpen. So and Devin Williams is just so good as their closer, and if they have a lead late, they're going to win the game in all likelihood. But that's the question today, because they're starting a guy who had a 7 ERA not that long ago in AAA.
Yes. We will get to
my bud Tobias
Myers. Yeah.
Toby,
so
as
we're gonna call him Toby.
Yeah.
But no, he allowed 6 runs in 1 inning in AAA. And he had a 1-15 record in AAA with a 7.8 ERA.
When was this?
2022.
Holy crap.
September. So 2 years later, fast forward, and now he's lined up to start the winner-take-all Game 3 of this wild card round. I mean, this is why you like baseball, because things
these
like
are great
this
stories.
happen.
Yeah, and it happened the other at the Braves when Sale was scratched and they threw Grant
Holmes. Okay, you guys are
Holmes
such sleepers on Grant Holmes. He's good.
Okay, but he's
not Chris Sale.
He's not Chris Sale, and he didn't know until like 15 minutes before the game started that he was starting.
Right.
The Mets are starting Jose Quintana, who is a long-time pitcher. He's been around. This is his 13th or 14th season. Lefty. He was one of the best lefties in baseball, probably from 2015 to 2020-ish, with the White Sox. 200 innings, 200 strikeout guy, low ERA. Had some injuries. Went to the Angels right after COVID and was awful. And so he's rebounded though, and it's a good story for him. So if you're looking at it old school baseball wise, you would say, oh geez, they have the better starting pitcher, they're going to win. But this day and age, when you can shorten games with your bullpen, if the Brewers score early and get a lead, our buddy Toby may not have a very long leash. One thing that I noticed last night's game, when the Brewers came back, Phil Maton is the reliever who gave up the winning runs, and Rangers fans might know him from the Astros the last couple of years, but also he's the guy who broke Josh Young's arm this season.
Oh, look at that.
So anyway, just some. There's always a Rangers tie. Like we were talking the other day.
Always
6
Rangers
degrees of
tie.
Kevin Bacon. There's 6 degrees of the Texas Rangers. So anyway, I'm looking forward to the game though. I really like games like this, and in the postseason when you have an elimination game, it's not a game 7, but it's a game 3. I mean, a bunch of guys are going to go home sad, or a bunch of guys are going to go home happy.
Yeah, it's a winner take all. Interesting though, because before the Game 2 comeback win, the Brewers had a 0-26 record in postseason club history when trailing entering into the 8th.
Well, that makes some sense, because you think of the closers they faced in their postseason history. The first recollection I have is 82, and Bruce Sutter was the Cardinals closer, so he was really good. But yeah, you run into guys, and teams are good. Playoff teams are good because they're good at the back of the bullpen,
which is what the Brewers are.
Yeah, with the 2023 Rangers an exception, I guess. But anyway, it's going to be fun, and if you like baseball, you like young stars, you're going to like Jackson Churio, and if you like big TV ratings and high payrolls, you're going to like the Mets. So we'll see what happens. But I think I predicted the Mets would win this series. So I got to stick with the Mets.
I'm going to go with the Brewers.
Okay. I won't be upset
Brewers.
if that happens.
It's going to be a tall task, though, because, like you said, Tobias, he, might not have the longest outing today, but Brewers' bullpen was great last night. 5 1/3 scoreless innings, but it is no light task going up against Quintana. He has a 0.74 ERA over his last 6 starts.
Yeah,
but his postseason is a 3.8. in 5 career postseason appearances.
Keep in mind that this is the 3rd game of the series. All right, so this is their 3rd straight day playing, and you have to watch out for some bullpen issues. There might be some usage issues that come into play. Guys don't throw 3 days in a row very often anymore. Mm-hmm. So you might see a guy not be as sharp. I mean, on the 3rd day, your stuff's just not as good. I think the Brewers, though, because they lost the first game, I mean, it was 8-4. It was pretty lopsided. Neither team really had to use their kick-ass guys late. Like Edwin Diaz didn't pitch. He hasn't pitched in the series for the Mets. And then Williams didn't have to pitch for the Brewers. So maybe that's a wash here. But there might be a guy or two. Ryan Stanek could pitch the first 2 games for the Mets. So he's the guy who gave up the grand slam to Dlls last year in Game 6. So maybe he's a little bit tired and they try to stay away from him and go with somebody else. I don't know, but usage may come into play in this game too.
Love that. We do want to touch on something that the Rangers are doing in efforts to the hurricane relief. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. Because I'm, really, Bruce Bochy lives in Nashville. Mm-hmm. He's wasn't terribly affected. Evan Carter, Eastern Tennessee, his hometown, Elizabethton was right in the thick of it. Had some flooding. It was more toward Knoxville, at least from Evan's house. But it's a tough situation, and our friends at Hickory, the Crawdads, the high A team for the Rangers, the past few seasons, they're moving to low A next year. Still going to be in Hickory, North Carolina, which is Western Carolina. You can drive straight, kind of west and a little bit north out of Charlotte, and you're in Hickory, about 45 minutes away. Asheville's a little bit further away, and of course, we all know that Asheville is kind of the epicenter, the biggest city in Western Carolina, getting affected by the flooding caused by Hurricane Helene. And so the Crawdads are auctioning off game used jerseys,
80 game worn jerseys.
And I have put in a bid for one. I think but some of these players they're Sebastian Walcott and Wyatt Langford, Kamara Rocker, Luis Angel Acuna, jerseys that they've worn in games are all available. And I did a bid on a Mitch Bratt Cam Cauley jersey.
Okay.
So we'll see what happens. Every bid starts at $100, and the proceeds go to a remarkable cause at a time when, depending on what you're hearing from FEMA and the Secretary Mayorkas, that
they go to the Red Cross.
They're out of money. That the FEMA doesn't have any money. So that's not good. So every little bit helps. These are good people, good baseball people too, in North Carolina and the Carolina League and the South Atlantic League. That's South Atlantic League is Hickory's league, and the Carolina League is down east, which is on the basically on the coast. They get affected and hurt by hurricanes in a different way. So anyway, help if you can, because it's a good cause. And if you go to the Hickory Twitter account, you can get a link and go right to it. Or Abby has retweeted it, and so have I. Yeah.
If you're able to, it would be a great cause. Just happy to see that baseball's stepping in to do something where they can.
Yeah, it's very important to help these folks out.
Well, next up, we're going to wrap up this episode. We're going to talk about the ALDS and then the NLDS and just some fun baseball questions.
I like fun baseball questions. Yeah, and everybody in the chat, Ben and Natalie and
send
Coop,
questions that you guys
fire
have.
Away. We got time.
We got 15 minutes, y'all. So stay tuned on the DLLS Rangers podcast. We need you to become our best friend.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds a little. What's the word I'm looking for?
Desperate,
but hey, we mean it. Become our best friend for a whopping $79.99 a year. No, seriously, upgrade your fandom because Die Hard is where it's going to be. The Mavs are going to make an insane run this season. I'm predicting a Western Conference Finals run, maybe further. So you're going to want to be locked into that exclusive content. We pushed out something today with Mark Stein and head coach Jason Kidd. All, again, exclusive content. We're going to have things up behind paywalls. So you want to be sure to join the fandom because you get that exclusive content. And when you're sitting around at the bar talking with your buddies, you can say, oh, I heard the J Kidd talk to Phil Jackson about, this method.
The triangle offense.
Yep. And he's going to use it and,
yeah,
all of those things. So become a diehard today. Join DLLS. You get 20% off of events and 20% off of merchandise and so much more. So just join alldls.com.
And check out the merch at store.allcitynetwork.com. T-shirts are shipping imminently, we were told
Very
today. Hats are coming. There are sweatshirts, multiple Ranger shirts to choose from. I have 3 coming. I also have TCU coming because I do the All Horned Frogs podcast, and it's just good stuff. But to Abby's point on the Die Hard membership, you get access to every Ranger story. Some of them are free, but a lot more of them are starting to go behind the paywall, which excites Abby. We've got 7 there, probably about half is the rate right now, and it's going to increase because there's going to be fewer stories, but stuff you got to read, stuff that we got at the end of the season that we need to get out, evaluations, all that stuff. So like she said, become a diehard member and then go get your merch.
Love it. All right, we are rolling into, it feels like we're already so far into postseason, but we're 2 days in. So like we mentioned, 1 game to wrap up today. Jeff's going with the Mets. I'm going to go with the Brewers. We will see tomorrow. Whoever is there and wins that outcome will take on the Phillies.
Yes.
Philly is, I have one statement. Thank you, Lord, that the Rangers did not play the Phillies.
It would have been different.
Oh my gosh. Philly is such a hostile environment. That's the most crazy fan base, I think, in baseball.
It might be. I mean, they're definitely passionate. That's safe to say that. They fill out that stadium. It's a nice little ballpark. It's older now. Geez, but yeah, a good fan base. And a good team, for crying out loud. You got Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper, Trey Turner, JT Realmuto. I'm leaving out a bunch of guys. I'm sure Alex Bohm, and then the starting pitcher with Wheeler and
I think
Aaron
he's starting
Nola
game
and
1.
Rangers Suarez, and just they're a good team. They were so good for so long. They were the best team in baseball. They kind of cooled off a little bit, so you kind of have your thoughts about that. But I've predicted them to go to the World Series. So I think that they will have they will win the division round and then the championship series. If they play the Mets, it's interesting because they already played 13 times this season, so the teams are very familiar with each other. So
I'm still taking the Phillies,
and it's just a train ride up the street to between games, so travel won't be a killer.
I think that doubleheader for the Mets, though,
it may catch up with them. Yeah. They've had a busy week. Yeah. I mean, this, I made the point. This is the 3rd straight game of the series. They're going to be their
5th game
in 4 days.
Yeah,
and they played Sunday, right? And they played Saturday. Right. So they've played a lot of baseball.
And they played Monday.
And you think at some point it could catch up to them. So
probably tonight.
We'll see. We'll see.
Zach Wheeler will be starting game 1, though. And then you have Royals and Yankees.
Yeah.
A little surprised there.
I think it's the Yankees are going to win that one. Although,
Twitter said the opposite.
Well, I think Twitter hates the Yankees.
Everyone is really rolling with the Royals.
Well, good. That's fun. I like, look, I'm glad that the Royals are getting the opportunity for Cole Reagans, who's unabashed about Cole Reagans. Bobby Witt as well. The day Bobby Witt got drafted, they were sitting in his whole family was on the couch like this, and the TV was right there, and I was about where that camera is. So it was a cool moment. Bobby Witt Sr. is great.
That's cool.
Player agent, obviously a former Rangers guy. Love talking to him. So I have a soft spot for Bobby Witt too. But I think that the good thing about this is that people are going to get to see Bobby Witt because, Aaron Judge, everyone's like, oh, Aaron Judge, MVP.
I was going to say
rightfully so. But
it's
Bobby Witt's season is outrageous.
right.
What he's done hasn't been done a lot. And he's so much younger than Aaron Judge. And it's just, I hope that he has a good series and that people can see, hey, holy crap, this guy is really good.
Well, Bobby Witt is really good against the Yankees. He's hit safely in 12 straight games versus the Yankees. He's batting .408. It's gross. 6 extra base hits and .592 slugging, 8 runs scored.
Yeah, that'll work.
So, yeah, it is a shame. I mean, on one hand, when you have a season like Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani, like those numbers are ridiculous. Nobody's going to touch them, but you do lose sight of guys like Bobby Witt in the midst of that, and you don't want to discredit what Bobby Witt has done. But these teams have made this matchup before, 5th time in the AL playoffs facing each other. Which is interesting.
The first time since the late 70s. So,
Garrett
maybe
Cole,
the early 80s, one of the two.
Garrett Cole starting for the Yankees,
He's
game
good.
1, and Michael Wacha.
Texas A&M, lives in this area. So, anyway, it should be a good series, and the Royals get to reset their pitching, so there shouldn't be any excuses on that front.
Who do you think takes the series?
I think the Yankees will win the series.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do too. Up next is the Detroit Tigers at the Guardians. Now, you mentioned that they have faced each other the most in baseball.
13 times, yeah.
But I'm talking about historically.
Oh, yeah.
Historically, they have faced each other the most. I think it's upwards of 2,300 times.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But this is the first time that they've ever played each other in the postseason.
Oh, that's cool.
I am very excited to watch Emmanuel Clase.
Yeah, former Ranger. Yeah.
Going to be amazing. I was discussing with Jeff earlier a stat that I saw with Emmanuel in the first, in the last 100 years with 250 innings pitched, he has the lowest ERA. That's
pretty good.
Pretty good.
That'll work.
It's a 1.67.
That'll work. Yeah.
The next is a guy, maybe you've heard of him, Mariano Rivera, with a 2.21 ERA.
That's a big difference.
So
right there.
Also to just make it even more layman's terms, he's only allowed 5 runs all season long.
Yeah, he's I've said this on this story on this show before. When he was a rookie with the Rangers in 19, he made his debut okay, and one of the first road trips was to Cleveland, and this was a game that Corey Kluber pitched. It was a day game, and Kluber dominated the Rangers, and so the Rangers, but it was a low scoring game, so they brought in Clase, and he just pitched his tail off, was fantastic, cutter at 102 miles an hour, and afterward the Guardians were just in awe of this guy, talking about how unbelievable he was, and they had no chance. Their at bats were awful against him. So flash forward 3 or 4 months. And the Rangers and the Indians at the time, Guardians, made the trade for Corey. The Rangers acquired Corey Kluber, and Emmanuel Clase and Delino DeShields were in the trade. So, if you want to talk about bad John Daniels trades, and I love John Daniels, he's my buddy.
That'll go down as one.
That's going to go down as a big one. But, because Kluber pitched 1 inning.
Yeah.
And I know it was COVID and all that, but nevertheless, 1 inning before he hurt himself and had to miss the rest of the season. And Clase, of course, is now, the best closer in the game, and that's fine. But you take your chances. And anyway, that's a fun Clase story. And there are others out there. He's apparently had some common sense moments off the field that don't quite. That don't quite add up, but that's all right.
It's okay. We're talking about on the field. Speaking of, Austin Hedges, Rangers' favorite, Hedgie, said that which Austin Hedges exaggerates, but take it with a grain of salt. But he did say he's the best pitcher he's ever caught.
No, there you go.
So if Austin Hedges say it, I'm rolling
You're
with
rolling
it.
All right.
No, but this will be an interesting matchup just because of the bullpen. The Tigers. AJ Hinch's mantra right now is Derek Skubal day one and then pitching chaos the rest of the way. Yeah. So the Tigers do have a good bullpen. Let's see. Right. They are 5th in MLB. in the bullpen ranking with a 2.87 ERA.
Yeah.
But the Guardians are the best.
Yeah, Cleveland can
So
pitch.
I think that this was something we talked about, when it comes to pitching so situational, not as strategic.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you want to go way down in the weeds, we talked about AJ Hinch, veteran guy, has been in a ton of postseason series. Well, this is Stephen Vogt's first season managing. He was a player not that long ago, so that's a potential wild card in the mix. And as far as the bullpen management goes, how are you going to handle Jose Ramirez? He's a switch hitter, and he's really, really good from both sides, but I think he's better from the right side. So there might be some interesting matchups there. Decisions that Hinch has to make. I just think the Guardians are a little more complete team with the rotation and the bullpen combination, and then they do have the superstar player that the Tigers don't have. So that's why I got the Guardians winning this series.
Okay, I will go with the Tigers on this one, but Fangraphs did say that the Tigers have a 48% chance of winning.
So looks pretty even.
So,
all right. We gotta get some questions. Did we get all the series? Oh, we got Dodgers Padres.
Padres. We can just talk.
This is gonna be a great series.
Yeah, we can just talk about it briefly. We can save these questions, do those questions tomorrow. So that means
we'll ask some of them.
We'll ask some, but definitely tune in. So it's gonna be. I mean, Manny Machado said this is the matchup I've been waiting for my entire life. You know, this is going to be interesting. In the month of September, the Padres had the fourth best rotation. 2-6, and the Dodgers were the worst in baseball with 5-8.
Yeah, that's kind of a trend in the last few years for the Dodgers. The Dodgers and the Yankees too have had some division series blues, so that's kind of hanging over the Dodgers. They have Ohtani, of course. He's going to be the big star. They aren't going to have Clayton Kershaw, looks like, from just up the street from our studio, which is a shame. And then the Padres, they have the really solid lineup. Jerks and Profar, another great former Rangers story. Yu Darvish, who came from Japan and first team was the Rangers. Martin Perez, one of my all-time favorite guys. So some Rangers ties there.
Both
and of course, the whole front, well, not the whole front office, but AJ Preller and Mike Daly and some of the guys in the front office all have Rangers ties too.
Both Yu Darvish and Perez were left off of the wild card rotation, but they might make it back in.
Darvish is coming off of injury, so he might be a good one to have on that staff. So, all right, let's get some questions. We got like 3 minutes.
All right, pull them up because I definitely can't see that far away. I need those prescriptions.
Here comes the prophet. Chris Young wants to look in-house mostly for pitching. Is there any bullpen guys in the system you're excited for? Well, I think you should be excited for Mark Church, who made his major league debut. I thought he was going to make the opening day roster this year. He got hurt anyway. Mark Church is a guy to be excited about. And then Skylar Hales, who finished at Double-A, fourth round pick in 23 from Santa Clara, throws super hard, needs to work on his slider some more. He's going to be in the fall league. Mark Church is going to be in the fall league. So watch what they do in October. Next question.
Let's find one, Mr. Prophet.
Tropical Texan. Have there been any updates on Josh Young's wrist? We need him 100%. Yeah, he's just resting it right now. They think rest will knock out the tendonitis. They don't think the worst case, which would be having to move the tendon from beneath the plate, which would remove the plate, which would create 7 new fractures in his arm. They don't think that's going to happen. You're right, though. Josh Young's got to be on the field. Next. Oh, God, Natalie.
Can we make the screen bigger?
Will Wyatt be someone who moves around? Oh, there we go. The outfield next season and plays the field every day, or will he get a few DH days as well? He'll probably get DH days, but I think he's acquitted himself nicely as an outfielder. He's going to improve, and I think his ability to play center field, which is a position in flux, will mean that he will be more of a everyday player on the field than at DH.
I'm so serious. I can't even see him. I need to make an eye doctor appointment.
Yeah, we have insurance now. So,
any other questions, Elijah, that we can see?
The most important question. Will Will Smith win his first? I don't know. I don't think he will, but how many series in a row? I was thinking about that today. How many series in a row has Will Smith won? Probably 11?
That's got to be in the notes.
He's won the
looking
World
it up.
Series the last 4 years or the last 3 years. 4 series with
Got
the
to be
Rangers.
the luckiest guy
3-3
in Major League
I bet
Baseball.
he's won 11 straight playoff series. We'll answer that tomorrow.
Okay, we'll look into it.
Yeah,
He's got to be the most lucky
well, he's good.
player in baseball.
He's good. He's a great teammate. He's left-handed, so he's kind of a specialist and a guy who can get big outs and has a good slider. And hey, you know what? More power to him. That's awesome. And he's a good dude.
Another exciting thing that we didn't get to touch on during the Tuesday season-ending press conference is Bruce Bochy wants to stay in Texas, at least for now. So, he has the historic record of winning the World Series, losing the next year, then winning again. We're going to see if it is true in 2025. We're very hopeful for the Rangers.
There may be a story about that coming on ALLDS.com for diehard members.
Wink, wink.
There you go.
Tune in.
Good tease.
Well, it has been fun hanging out. Thanks for bearing with me and J-Dub while J-Rads is on vacay. We're having so much fun with you guys. Tune in tomorrow, and we will talk more about the postseason.
Same time, same place.
See y'all.
We all silly like the mayor.